Oh, look at that. Look at that, everybody. All right. Welcome to Kilgallon's Pub, podcast where I, comedian Joe Kilgallon, like to drink with some people, have some fun, recreate that style of conversation you have at the bar with your boys or your girls, or your they, thems. It's a new world, right? I'm very excited for this one. This is episode 99 of the podcast. I got a great guest, a returning guest, someone who I should have had a while back because his episode was a very popular one. The one, the only, Kevin Bozeman. How you doing, Kevin?
Fantastic, man. Thanks for having me. How are
Dude,
you?
I'm very good. This is great because we're simulcasting. We're going live on my YouTube channel, and we're also live on Facebook, the People of Comedy Facebook network, which has got a ton of great Chicago comedy-based podcasts on it. And so if anyone wants to pop in, any comments, I'll be able to we'll indulge with you a little bit because there's a few things I want to talk about with you because you're a fun guy, like maybe the best combination of comedian and drinker, because there's some great drinkers, but they're not good comedians. You know what I mean? So there's like a ratio. And I feel like you are like in that you're on that Mount Rushmore of comics who have talent and could drink at like an insane level.
What would you rather have if you had a choice to hang out with? A great comic or a great drinker?
I think a great drinker.
A great comic that's a bad drinker, or a great drinker that's a bad comic?
I think a great drinker that's a bad comic because you're going to have fun with that person, I feel like.
I feel like I'm the opposite, my man. I feel like a drinking buddy is a bonus, but if I gotta, nothing bothers me more than having because generally those people are really funny too, but they're horrible on stage. And that bothers me. That hurts my soul when they're so fun to hang out with, but on stage you're like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because something's missing.
Deal with this for the weekend?
Oh, especially on the road. Oh, that's bad. I didn't even think of it that way. If you're working a whole weekend at a club with them.
I'm talking about people that you're working with. Like, I mean, I go to the comedy club and hang out with people that drink, and that's great. But like, if I got to watch them perform and it's awful, I'll take the great comic who's got shitty perspectives on everything, and get wasted, and yeah, I'll take that because I can always leave that situation.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that point because sometimes on the road you don't always have to hang out with the person you're opening with. It's a bonus if your opener's cool, but not always has to be the case. Hold on, I just mean to click off of something there. You see here, I thought we got a comment, but maybe I heard something else. Sorry about that, everyone. Testing a new thing here out. But this is that's a great point, man. And you, but as far as like I was saying though, to be a great drinker and a great comedian, what do you think you're better at, drinking or comedy?
I mean, I would like to say I'm better at comedy. Who wouldn't want to say that they're better at comedy? But a lot of people tend to mention my drinking a lot. Well, I'm not nearly the drinker that I used to be, though. I mean,
I had a nice little prime in my mid to late 20s there that I think has passed me by now that I'm a stay-at-home dad, basically. Yeah. Those days of going hard. But you, man, I've heard like legendary stories, bottles of Jameson, and I think I've seen you drink a lot, but it doesn't. You seem to hold up right. I've never seen it where I'm like, wait, Bozeman, he was drunk. I've never. So I don't know. That's why those the best drinkers are like sneaky like that.
Can still hold a conversation and stuff, and don't get aggressive. Don't get touchy. Don't start yelling. Don't start berating people. Yeah, those people I got zero tolerance for. When it's time for me to check out, I just check out. I bounce. I don't say goodbye or anything. I'm. What do you call it? Isn't that an Irish goodbye?
It is an Irish goodbye. Comedian Sean Flannery, who's Irish, of course, and is a great drinker and comic. I saw him do it in a way where I've never been a fan of the Irish goodbye, even as an Irish person, because it's not so hard to just say goodbye. I remember one of the first times I was a new comic. I was like maybe 5-6 months in. And so getting drunk with him was a big deal as a comedian coming up, like as far as, Chicago goes. And he's a fun guy. And I remember I was outside, like calling my girlfriend, now wife or something. And Sean was just like, I'm like, oh, you leaving? He's like, no, I'm going to go piss between these two bushes over here. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I saw him just keep going. And he just went home. I think he went to a corner, got into like a cab. And I'm like, why the fuck did he just say goodbye? Why did he lie about peeing somewhere?
Because people don't like to hear. People don't want you to leave. People don't want you to leave. They want you to stick around. They want you to drink, but that's when I know to leave. That's why I don't say goodbyes, because I maxed out. I maxed out for what I was capable of that night, and so I just bounce. If it's real chill and real chill atmosphere, I'll say goodbye. But if it's intense and I want to go, I just go. I feel like if it's really intense and everybody's having a good time, they won't miss me. It's not like, what, Bozeman left, we shutting it down. So it just depends on
that. That would feel pretty good though if people were like, Bozeman's gone, party's over, turn the lights off, you know. That's gotta be a nice little ego boost. Speaking of ego boosts, I gotta give you an ego boost from the start. I saw you tweet maybe a week or so ago. You got a son that's a pretty badass basketball player, man.
You know what? Here's the thing. He's better because I played at Wisconsin Whitewater. I played 2 years at JUCO, then I went to Wisconsin Whitewater. And he's better than me so far every step. And I hope that he turns out to be better than me than my best. I think that I was pretty tough. I feel like in my day, like my 25, 26-year-old range, I felt like I was ready to hoop. It didn't matter who was stepping on the court. I hooped against NBA players. I hooped against, European players. But yeah, he's not bad. He's got a load of potential. He just, the father always wants best for him. He's still a work in progress, but yeah, we're getting there.
I'm sure you've given him tons of great advice and passed down some wisdom. I got into basketball a little late. Maybe I was like 11, 12 years old. I think 11 years old when I first played like organized basketball, not, shooting around.
You were always a baseball guy?
I was always obsessed with baseball. And then in my whole block, everyone on my block, I grew up like on a Chicago street, real like,
Where did you grow up?
I grew up on like off of Irving and Milwaukee on the northwest side, a neighborhood called Portage Park.
Okay, of course.
Yeah, so I went to Chicago Public School, Portage Park right there.
I mean, literally the opposite end of me. I was southeast.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, it was northwest side. So yeah, totally. If you folded Chicago like in half, maybe. Yeah, and I remember my dad being like, "Pass the ball, just pass." But I had a coach who was trying to teach me to be a scorer, and then I became obsessed with basketball. I watched Michael Jordan's Come Fly with Me every day, and I learned how to score. I had a good little like fadeaway, not like a fadeaway, but like a quick little turnaround, right. And I could get to the basket. And I remember my dad being like, "Focus on your passing. You just got to focus." And then I got older and realized, okay, he knew that I wasn't going to be 6'6", and he knew that so he was probably just trying to be like, genetically, let's work on shoot the three, shoot like he wanted me to be John Stockton.
What can keep you on the court as long as possible?
Yes, which is great advice.
That's always the goal. It's to stay do whatever it takes to stay on the court as long as possible. I tell my kids this. I go, you may not be able to shoot, but if you can stop the shooter from shooting on the opposite end, they're gonna always have a spot for you. And that doesn't take a whole lot of talent. You got to be athletic enough to be positioned defensively and be able to keep up with the superior athletes. But if you can defend, I mean, look how many people that defended that scored career 6-point shooters and been 15 years in the league.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, and that's what was impressive. That's why I loved it. And I want to get to this because it was so awesome to read because you went into such great detail. Everyone, I'm not sure if I mentioned at the beginning, but Kevin did top 25 NBA players of all time. And what was really cool about it was that, it's during quarantine. So the NBA season's not going on and everything's going on with COVID. So it was like a fun thing to be updated about while everyone was getting hyped up about the Last Dance documentary. So I'm kind of like, all right, and I already knew you and I've talked basketball enough where I kind of knew I had a guess of your top 5, but there was a couple surprises along the way. But you did it in such a way where it was like, here's what stuck out to me. When you brought up something about LeBron James, I'm not hating on LeBron James, but this one stuck out where you talked about a sequence where, no, he was looking to pass. And trust me, I remember, I'm a gambler. Gamblers never forget. And that made me laugh my ass off because every gambler I know could always recall, this is what this piece of shit should have done that day. It cost me $1,000 and all that. So before we get into that, though, because I know you got great basketball knowledge. Your son, what position does he play?
He is a 4 right now, but I'm trying to get him to be a 3 because he's 6'7".
6'7", damn. You're like 6'5", 6'6", right? You're big.
I'm right at 6'5", and he's 6'7", right? And he's on this 4,000 calorie diet right now. He's trying to put on muscle. And
Smart.
he's doing all the things. He's working out. I got a hoop outside the crib where he's putting the time in. I rebound for him and do all of those things. But I'm like, you could play a lot of places at 4 as a 4, 6'7". But if you a 6'7" small forward, now we start talking some elite type shit, because 6'7" small forward means you can go out and do other things just naturally. If you're 6'7" and you're small forward, you can just go out. That means people know you can go out and do other things. You can athletic, you can handle the ball a little bit, you can shoot a little bit, you can score, you can rebound. That's kind of that guy that can kind of do all of those things. So he's 6'7", he's a power forward, but I'm trying to get him to be a small forward. But he's a high academic kid too. He'll be a senior at Downers Grove North, but he's a high academic school. So my goal, like ideally, I would love for him to go Ivy League.
Oh, dude, that'd be fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man. I mean, who cares about basketball? Going Ivy League is just perfect. But to play there, especially, would be amazing.
I always just spend all of my time with people going, "Wait, your kid?" People like, "Wait, your kid? Yours?" Yes, my kid. Yep.
Dude,
that'd be great. That'd be a great thing. I sacrificed my career for him. The least he can do is go Ivy League.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm sure you've gotten this. Because Kevin, you've done a lot of stuff. You've been headlining clubs across the country for a long time. You were a finalist, right? You were top 10 in Last Comic Standing.
Just outside. I was in my finals, and yeah. So yeah, I did Last Comic, which was great. People, I had a good set. When you're with people that's doing, I don't know, 3-minute sets or a minute and a half, whatever they're giving us.
So hard.
Crazy, something that we never do. And so you go up, you have a good set, and they're gonna nitpick it, and they nitpick mine, and I didn't make it, but I wasn't screaming foul or anything. It was a great time. I mean, I got to stay in LA on their dime and stay in a nice hotel, and
yeah,
fun.
For sure, man.
It was fun. Nice credit.
Yeah, nice credit, great experience. But
so many Chicago comics were out there too, which was great, hanging out with them.
Oh yeah, that had to be a lot of fun. And I bring up Last Comic Standing because like you've done a lot of things, but you've always stayed in Chicago, and I'm sure you've had people breathing down your neck to be like, come to New York, come to LA, and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like you've got a great career, man. You got a good situation. So
right, everybody likes to have that home run, in your terms, home runs, but it's all right to just keep racking up singles and doubles. If Rafael Palmeiro didn't get caught cheating, he was going to be a Hall of Famer, and he was never ever great. I tell people there is greatness in being really good for a long time.
Yeah, consistency.
But he never was MVP. He never was leading the league or anything. But every year, but then when he made that big old speech and pointed to the right, I've never done it. And then 2 weeks later, guess what? You did do it. And then he just disappeared. But he was really good. I mean, there's so many ways where you can make a really good living. Maybe not buy a helicopter and have mansions, but you can pay your kids through college and make a decent living and not necessarily have to worry check to check. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, hell no, man. You made it. You made it. That's what making it is to me. If you're happy, that's making it. That's what it is.
I agree. I tell people that all the time. I go, if you're happy, you've made it.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. So you got a 6'7" son. My oldest son, I measured him the other day, he's like 3'3". It's weak, man. I mean, he's 3 years old, but still, man, that's bullshit, man.
What do they say? What do they have him in the on the charts? Like, what's his percentile?
Oh, he's like 90th percent. He's up there. He's pretty tall. Both my sons are tall for their age. I know. I'm just fucking around. It's just funny because I measured him and I'm like, you're 3'2". It just seems. Come on, man. Let's step it up.
Let's go.
I like talking to my two sons like they're bar buddies. Like to my 1-year-old the other day, I was like, dude, you're acting like a baby. Let's get that shit together,
You're being who you are right now. And
I really am. Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, all right. Yeah, being happy is you made it. You know what I mean? Not everyone has to be this, and you mentioned like helicopters and stuff like that Kevin Hart crazy lifestyle. Some of that sounds
like Bird hasn't done a lot of movies and stuff. Like I would think most of his grip has come from just being a stand-up comic, and even like the Brian Regans of the world. Bill Burr is starting to, he's doing a couple of movies and TV shows, but I think I was thinking of Bill Burr when I saw the helicopter, and Kevin Hart obviously has everything. Phenomenal, good for him. There's no one that worked. People that talk shit about those comics, like the Amy Schumers and the Kevin Hart in the world, talk about how funny that they are. I don't doubt that when they say that, but I do doubt their work ethic. Amy Schumer's and Kevin Hart's work ethic was, you could just see that's head and shoulders above everyone else's.
Absolutely. Amy Schumer, I mean, I don't know if I said Schubert. Amy Schumer, I was like just starting when she, I think, won Last Comic Standing, or was like top 5 in Last Comic Standing. And I was at the Globe open mic, just a little open mic at a bar on the north side of Chicago. And I got off stage and a bunch of comics were like, that's Amy Schumer. She's on Last Comic Standing right now. And she was waiting to go up. And I'm like, why is she here? And they're like, oh, she was at Zany's. I think she had like a sister who lived here at the time. And right. And she like popped in and did Zany's tonight. I guess like she's here for the week doing some stuff. And then she came to this open mic. And I'm like, that's a crazy work ethic. I mean, you're on a show that's nationally televised and doing really well. You go up at a big club and then you're like, no, I need more. And then you go to a little bar. That to me was like, okay, this is someone who's going to be big because they've got that insane thing. And I only bring up Kevin Hart because he's just the biggest comedian. But I also mentioned Kevin Hart for 2 reasons. And this hopefully will segue. The segue will make sense for everyone. I caught a clip of him. He was on Joe Rogan's podcast like yesterday. And he said, he's telling Rogan, you got to watch the Jordan documentary. You got to watch The Last Dance. And he's talking about how crazy Jordan was like mentally with like this guy was destined to be a winner and nobody put in the work like he did. And it was just, the guy's like an alien, he's hyping him up and everything like that. And that's how I see like a Kevin Hart with the work ethic thing. But then I thought to myself, when Jordan's in the hotel room and he's like, this isn't a life you want. It made me think, I don't want that shit. I don't want in his brain, it works for him. But to me, that idea of being so famous that you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. I mean, he went gambling with his dad to blow off some steam, and it was worldwide headlines. Like, there's just something about that level where I'm like, I don't even know. Like, is Michael Jordan even a happy guy? I don't know.
Nothing is. There's very few things, if anything, that's absolute. So there's just going to be some trade-offs. There's going to be some trade-offs. You're going to rub people the wrong way. You're going to step on some toes. You're going to have to give up certain things. But, I mean, man, for me, for you and I who grew up in Chicago, like this was, I take 100 more Jordans, especially now where what the Bulls are. And sports-wise, I take 100 more Jordans. Like I always argue about this. Like I would never. Like, I would love to hang out at night with Jordan, but I wouldn't want him in my crew.
I mean,
I would not want that dude in my crew. There's no way I could deal with just like that sort, the way he processes information. We talk about bad drinkers. Like, there's also people that's ultra competitive, where I want people that's competitive, that want to compete, but not at the level.
Yeah, I think I'd get annoyed with Jordan hanging out with him. I mean, Will Smith was on Kimmel and they talked about, what's it like hanging out with Michael Jordan? He's like, everything's a competition. You'll be like out to eat with him and he'll be like, I bet I can finish my steak fast. You can finish your steak. And it's like, I want to fucking enjoy this, buddy. Come on.
Exactly right. And I think the higher the stakes are, like the bigger he sees the star power in somebody else, the more he wants to compete with them, because that's just that he only knows one way. And
that's that challenge.
That's how you get to be considered the greatest of all time, is you only know one way, and that's not for 99.9999999% of the people on the planet. So, but and like you said, it's all about being happy in the end, dude. Like I go to sleep feeling pretty good. right? You do too, though.
I do too. I mean, there's been if I'm being honest with my audience, there's been some ups and downs lately, and I couldn't figure out why, because I don't know. Sometimes I think the difference now is like I've been putting a lot of work in, building my YouTube channel, just putting out content. I've been big on TikTok lately, just to try to like, keep some sort of sanity. Like I need to, because my wife's a nurse and she's like working on the COVID floor and she's amazing and she's like she's holding us together. So I feel like I got to be more than if I'm just full-time dad. I think I'll lose my mind. So I have to keep pushing the comedy thing. And on days you don't get the results, it's like fuck, and you get really like pissed off. But then I got to remember, we got to think big picture. You also, you can't tie your happiness into these numbers too, right?
What's your? You said ups and downs. What's your biggest up? What's your biggest down of recent memory, if you want to share?
Recent memory? Oh no. Biggest up recently? I mean, just filming that last hour, felt really good. I had to take a step back and be like, damn, I did an hour a year, 2 years in a row. I released an hour in 2019 and released an hour in 2020. And yeah, at first I was hesitant where I'm like, am I pushing this? Do I need to wait another 6 months to make it better? Or is it ready? I'm like, no, this shit's ready. Let's put it out there. So that was a great up. A down would be like, I don't know if there's one thing I could pinpoint. It's just kind of like an overall, like being frustrated. What's that?
Life right now.
Yeah, you know what it is? So here's what I was going to say. Someone made a reference that for comedians, performing is our drug. And I think it's like I'm starting to go through a little withdrawals now. I think for a while I was like, hey, this is what it is. Nobody's performing right now. When it all comes back, it'll be fun because everyone will feel rusty about getting back on stage. And, look, this COVID shit's real. My wife works on the COVID floor. So I'm not like some insane conspiracy theorist who's like, it's the government and everything blows. But like, I think lately I've kind of, because I'm putting all this work in during the day, I'm editing podcasts, I'm editing clips from the podcast, putting up the stand-up clips as well. And just, I just started writing a script too. And normally when you blow off all that steam by performing at night. So at nighttime, it's like, cool. I get to tell some jokes on stage, get that live response. That is the reason I got into it. That's why I haven't wanted to do a single Zoom comedy show. Because I'm like, no, that's not what comedy is. I got into it for that fucking live reaction. That's what drove me to this shit.
So you haven't done any?
No, I haven't. I've been asked to do two, and I've said no only because I didn't tell them no, I'm not doing these. But when they asked me, I couldn't have done them anyway. One was like LA time. So it was like, no, I put my kids to bed around then and my wife's at work. So it's just not going to work. And then another was like same reason, I think. I had two where I was just like, I just can't. And so they're like, we'll try you on the next one. And they haven't hit me up. But I don't know. I'll probably cave and say yes. And maybe it'll be fun. I don't know.
You may have to.
Yeah, I think you're right. But you know what I mean? It just doesn't feel the same. Like I could have a conversation with you, but
it's not. I found a nice little groove doing them. I haven't done any public shows, but I've been doing like private corporate shows and stuff.
Really?
What's that?
How does that work?
They've been great, man. So I tell people, I'll say this, like it's great to do whatever it is you do and don't compromise. Like as a performer, you got your set and it's the way your point of view is and it's the way you write jokes. That's all great. But if you want to survive and grind, it's good to just have like a 15, 20 minute, half hour clean set that shows that I can do that too and do it well. So when times like this happens, there's always work. When there ain't been so many comedy clubs, but there's a ton of comedians, and there's always a lot of new comics. There's always a lot of new, especially now because there's so many different ways to become a hit. YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, everyone can become these viral sensations. And to stay working, man, you got to be able to diversify your portfolio. So, and right now, my portfolio is just doing corporate gigs on Zoom. So I go on, I make them turn off their mics. Like I don't even want to hear laughter because then you got to hear everything else.
Oh, that's
So
true. Yeah.
you got to hear a drink spilled, a dog barking, someone calling their kid calling them. So you can just mute them, and you can still see if they're laughing or not, right? So if they're
That's true.
laughing, you're good. You can see them laughing, and then you try to find who's laughing the hardest and try to pace your set based on that person. And I mean, it's just you just gotta have some flexibility because I don't know when we're gonna get back on stage consistently.
I know, man. That's the saddest thing. And for my regular podcast listeners, sorry if this has become a redundant thing each week with each guest, but it doesn't feel like in Chicago, especially because I guess our numbers really aren't going down that much. And the idea, the best thing about comedy clubs is the intimacy. You're packed in there. Laughter's contagious.
Yeah.
So is coronavirus. So like the whole idea of people laughing. When you laugh, you spit. You don't notice it, but you do.
Laughter and coronavirus have in common. They're both contagious. Wing, Joe Kilgallon.
See, I'm still funny here. But yeah, man, I've just been like occupying my time with trying to do all this like stuff to keep busy in the comedy world. But then I'm not getting that release later performing. So I think I've had some ups and downs. But you're right. You asked me, do I go to bed happy? 95% of the time. It's like me as a drunk. 95% of the time, biggest sweetheart in the world, you want me around. There's a 5% of the time, I'm going to be like, what the fuck did you say to my friend? No, seriously. What'd you fucking say to this guy?
When's the last time you been into a fight?
Shit, dude. I talked about this with my last guest. I had Megan Gailey on the podcast. Dude, I was the only – hold on, Ron Grant, who's in the comments. I want to answer that question soon, Ron Grant. So chill, bud. I love you. Thanks for asking that. It's a cool question. Anyway, I was at Megan Gailey's bachelorette party. I was the only dude at her bachelorette party, and a guy got loud, so I had to like chuck him. It was at a nightclub, and across the street from Chris Bader's bar, one of those nightclubs. I forget the name of it. And we had like this whole area, VIP like bottle service thing. And this dude and two other people, like a guy and a girl, they like kind of snuck into our area. And our bartender, our personal like waitress bartender, she was like, "Hey, you got to go." And he was like, "What? I'm sorry, I can't hear you." And he was doing it like on purpose. And then I come up because they're like, "Joe." And I'm like, "Oh shit." I'm like, "Dude, you gotta, this is private. She's getting married, it's her bachelor party. And I was being so cool. And I'm like, "No, seriously, you gotta fucking go." And he's being like a dick. Like, "I don't know. Why can't I?" And he's like up a little higher, right? He's like, people put their feet on the seat, but they're like sitting on like the top of the seat, like the booths like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I give a look at Lisa Traeger and Megan Gailey, and they both give me you're justified. Because I think I was having a conversation with them earlier about how I was working on my temper, and I don't want to be the angry dad. And they both looked at me like, "No, you go for it. This is why we love you. This is justified." And I just grabbed him and fucking threw him where he like landed like on his ass to back. And then I had that step like, fuck, I can't remember what I said, but dude, I could kick it up another gear with like the deepness of my voice when I'm about to get like pissed off. I could do that like, "I'll fucking end you." Like I could get like, I don't know where it comes from, man. I get real basty. It scares me.
Hair, Joe. It comes from your hair.
It is, man. It's fucking red coif. I'm going to show the listeners. Let me take the hat off real quick. Bam. Ron Grant is asking, what is the funniest thing we've been watching on TV? Like, what's the funniest thing we're watching right now?
Oh, gosh. Great question.
It is. I'll start. I have not been I've been trying to watch like comedy movies maybe more so because like as far as TV shows, I'm watching reruns of Scrubs because it's like a medical comedy, so it seems fitting right now. We're watching like a hospital comedy show, and then this is a mess. And then I watched The Other Guys the other day, fucking hilarious. And I don't know. I've been really watching too many comedies. I rewatched one of Dave Chappelle's specials. I can't remember which one. The one where he's in Houston. I watched that like earlier this week.
Yeah, I have not been really interested in comedy in this. Like, I feel like comedy comes from living, and we're not living, we're alive. And so, like, it's just like one of those things. Like, I'm one of those people that if someone dumps you, like I just remove myself from the situation as opposed to putting myself in the situation that reminds me of getting dumped. It's the same thing with stand-up. Like I'm not out being funny like I normally am. And so I don't watch a whole lot of comedy at all. So I I'll go into Modern Family every now and again because I think there's really not a whole lot. But I've been watching Cheers.
Dude.
I've been going to sleep on Cheers on Netflix, and it's got
off air.
Some things that's undeniably funny, but then some things it's just like, all right, this didn't really stand up through the test of time. But for the most part, Cheers.
I started to rewatch Cheers recently, and then I started to think about. I'll tell you off air something Cheers related. I don't want to give it away on this.
Why? How do you have Kilgallon's Pub where we supposed to be like friends, recreating the scene if we're in the bar?
All right.
Be like you telling me, I'll tell you outside on an Uber home about what happened about Cheers. Share it.
All right, I don't want anyone to steal this idea. Okay.
Oh, it's an idea.
I'm writing a thing that's Cheers related.
Okay, then that's cool. That's different. That's different.
It's a little different. It's a good idea.
A real story.
And we're broadcasting live. It's not a story, but I'll say this. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I'll say this. As in regards to Cheers, though, here's something in regards to Cheers. I think that it is easily the greatest first episode of a show ever. The greatest pilot episode I've ever seen of any TV show, maybe comedy, is Cheers, as far as the sitcom goes. Because it was that first episode is so hilarious because they nail what being in a bar is like.
Yeah.
When they have the scene where they're talking about like what's the sweatiest movie of all time, which is such a dumb conversation.
Right.
And then Diane's like snobby, like professor guy that ends up leaving her in the episode. He comes back in, he's like, "Oh, Cool Hand Luke," and they're like, "Oh yeah," like they all just like that happens in bars. I've seen that shit where a stranger chimes in and Sam's funny as hell, and the whole idea.
This episode, this is so vivid in you. The first episode of Cheers.
I watched it recently.
Okay.
All right, listen, fuck it. I'm gonna give the idea out. I'm already starting on the script. If anyone beats me to the script, they could have it.
That White Claw is bringing out his truths.
It is, man. I got to open up the next one. I'm writing a prequel to Cheers about Sam Malone as a Major League Baseball player, alcoholic womanizer set in the 1970s. You know how that's Sam's backstory is that he pitched for the Red Sox and alcoholism ruined his career, and then he bought the bar. So that's the backstory. Obviously, it's a long shot to be made because I'll have to get in contact with the producers and someone has to bite on it and all that kind of stuff. But I think it'd be a cool idea to see this womanizing alcoholic baseball player. And period pieces are cool. Nostalgia's big right now, as we know. We're about to talk about Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. So I think that's a good idea there.
Cheers prequel, and you're going to put it in the 70s, or are you just going to?
It's going to be set. Well, because Cheers started in 1982. So I think I'm going to have to set it in like the mid to late 70s during Sam's playing career. I just like the idea of an alcoholic womanizing baseball player.
Yeah, I'm sure there's not many out there.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure there's only one or two out there, tops.
Yeah, just a couple dabble in it, right?
I'm about to text my son and tell him to bring me up some wine.
That's smart, man. Yeah, you're drinking wine. I'm drinking White Claw. People could give me shit about it, but hey, I'm not.
I think wine is quality. I really like wine. I love it with food, but I like wine. It doesn't get too heavy. It's good. It's got versatility.
Speaking of heavy, I took a shit earlier and used my bidet, the bidet that I bought because Kevin Bozeman told me to buy a bidet.
It's a game changer.
Absolutely.
Game changer.
It is 100% a game changer.
If you have a bidet, you have the right to look down on people that don't have bidets. You have the right to act like you're better than them.
Yeah, because your asshole is cleaner.
And I have a stool too, so I make sure I put my feet up on the stool because they say you're supposed to put your feet up on the stool.
I got to get a stool.
Yeah, get a stool, and then I have that bidet, and I just feel like I'm better than people because my shitting techniques is Bruce Lee. It's be water, my friend.
Yeah. Is that you have your son? Does he use the bidet too? And he because that's got to help your height, man.
There's bidets in my bathrooms. I don't have just one. I got Yeah, a couple of bidets. Like
Yeah,
it's
you got to
fantastic.
have
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to wash your asshole out? Why when you have it and it's not. Here's the thing, Joe. It's not expensive. People make it seem like it's expensive, but it's not.
It's not.
It's just a
Excuse me, Amazon like $60. I think I got mine for.
yes, and it's easy to install. It's
It was
not
super
a
easy.
thing. Just get a bidet. Just
And
get a bidet.
what a fucking advantage your son has, because if I'm shooting free throws and my asshole is the cleanest on the court, I'm way more confident than anyone else on the court.
You should be. You could throw your underwear in the laundry room and not hide them under a towel like I used to do when I was playing.
Oh man, I'd get a wet fart when I played for some reason. Only time I ever had wet farts was when I was playing basketball. One of those ones where you're like, oh man, thank God we wear navy blue shorts, you know?
Oh Jesus, that's
Man.
sharting, my man. That's not a wet fart. That's a shart.
I mean, you know, a little fart that gives a little bit of like a little bit like, you know,
Don't
right?
think I'm being rude by being on the phone and checking messages. I'm literally texting my son to bring me a drink.
No, absolutely, man. Just, you know, hey, checking in everyone live. Ryan Grant, thanks for carrying the chat room right now. You're a good dude.
My son's on a 3-mile run right now for soccer.
He plays soccer too, man. Is he goalie at 6'7"? Oh, okay, cool. How many kids do you have again?
3.
3. I've got 2, and that I think is enough.
You want more than 6? You throw it in the towel?
I don't know. So we're gonna revisit it in like a year or two. The conversation. You know, it's tough because I love it, but right now I'm so exhausted because, you know, again, stay-at-home dad.
I could no. Like that's also because that's such a 360 transition. You going from being out and working and being out and about in the nightclub and to come home to stay at home and shit and cereal everywhere and then throwing stuff and yeah, that's.
I mean,
sorry, buddy. That's not a good life.
Well, I mean, I do. I clean up a lot of shit. I have the dog too. I pick up her shit. So I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, both boys. A 6-year-old female dog, a bitch. It's a dad joke. And yeah, so it's great. But then there are times where I'm like, oh fuck, it's hard. But when I get them on the same nap schedule, it's the best because they're both good nappers. The 1-year-old needs 2 naps. The 3-year-old needs 1 nap. But he'll take a solid 3.5, sometimes a 4-hour nap midday. And
gosh,
dude, they're great nappers. And when I was still stay-at-home dad, basically. Luckily, my wife, she's off like 3 days a week as a nurse because she works those 12-hour shifts. But you know, with the whole quarantine and the COVID thing, I'm getting no help from grandparents and aunts and whatnot. So it's just me all the time. Where before I could get a little bit like, oh, I could drop them off over here for like half a day and I could get a little sleep. I'm getting more sleep now, which is the only change in my life essentially. Because with comedy, like you're saying, you know, I'll be doing Community Show with you, have a few Guinness and Jameson with you, and like Danny Callis and Marty DeRosa afterwards. I'm getting home by like 12:31 a.m. and then the kids are waking up at like 6. Mm-hmm. And that was tough. I was getting a good 4 hours sleep.
You're not waking up sharp.
No, not at all. I was getting about 4.5 hours sleep for a good like 8 months, and I was still turning out a lot of new material, churning it out. And I remember getting a little cocky going, dude, once I start getting 7-8 hours sleep again, it's fucking over for you guys. And then I started getting 7-8 hours sleep again, and there's no comedy. So it's like, it literally is over for you guys.
It helps that you are part of the best stage in Chicago with the Comedians You Should
Know, man. Hell yeah, dude. Fucking very grateful. Very fortunate.
I don't do it a whole lot, but I love the stage.
Yeah, man, we always have you whenever you can. I mean, you're on the road a lot, so I understand why it's tough. It's I've filmed all 3 of my hours there. For the next one, I meant to do a different room just for a different background and all that.
Absolutely.
I have to, but we made the room look different last time. I don't know if you've seen the clips of my latest one. Everyone's watching on YouTube. Go ahead and check them out. Yeah. And we lit up the curtain in blue. So the curtain was like black and blue. We put like stage lights on put lights on the curtain. So that looked cool. We had no sign down. We extended the black curtain over a bunch of other stuff. So it looked darker throughout. We set the cameras in different angles. So I think to a lot of people watching, they wouldn't be like, oh, that's the same room. But it's similar enough where I think a lot of people are like, oh, I think that's the same room. I don't think people really give a shit as long as it's funny. I think that's all they care about.
Right.
But I definitely want a different audience. I tried to film like a sneak one up at the Skyline Comedy Club in Appleton when I was headlining there in like November.
Yeah,
like,
they got a great setup.
They got a great setup, but the dude I had film it, nice guy, but he kind of sold me. He made it seem like I said, "Here's what I want it to look like. Could you match this quality and match this?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course, yeah, easily." And then
why would they say anything else?
I know. Why do fucking people? Can't people just admit when they don't know how to do something? It doesn't make me.
They need that. You gotta. It's up to us though to be like, all right, cool. Just show me some of the things you've done, and let me see what your other work is. Like, because everybody's gonna tell you they can do it. Why would they not tell you that they can't do it? So that's you have to assume that they can't do it until they show you, or you get somebody whose word you just supremely trust.
Well, he refunded me half, which was nice.
Really, was it that bad? He refunded you?
I didn't use it. I mean, it was bad. I didn't use it at all. It wasn't clear. I mean, it was just like the angles suck. I remember even being nervous day of because I was like, hey, don't we have to like do some checks and shit like that? He's like, no, guy, I usually shoot like this and this. And then I realized I'm like, oh, dude, we're different. This is different levels here, man. I can't put this stuff up there because my quality's all been. It's like going from watching all your, you're watching NFL Sunday in 4K, and then you're going to a bar with a fucking analog television, and you're like,
yeah,
what am I doing? I can't watch this.
Was that a fumble, or did a fan throw something on the field? What happened?
Yeah. It's fun to play Technobowl, but like I don't want to go back to those graphics from my regular television.
Yeah.
I look at it that way. It's nuts. All right. Well, now that we're on sports, fuck it, man. Let's go right to this. I want to see if I can get some people on Facebook to be all like, fuck it. I know some assholes are going to get into the debate about that. Because I want to talk about your top 25 list, and I'm real curious to see if sorry about that, guys. This is not good podcasting right now. I'm trying to share something on another page. I want to. Do you have your top 25 list ready? Like, or not ready, but like, can you look it up real quick? That way I could like reference it. You know it? All right, cool.
I made my top 25 list, so I know my.
All right, cool. Just give 25 through 20. I'm not going to debate you on those ones, and then I'll I just read off. How am I going to say this? Yeah, name a few outside like your top 10 that you thought maybe were top 10, because I know you had 8 through 11 were a little tough for you.
No, my toughest omission was my hardest was working out 8 through 11, and I always called Kobe Bryant top 10, but I had him at 11. So that was like my toughest. That was just like my toughest one. But he and that. I mean, when he died, man, I'm telling you, I was driving from Dubuque, Iowa to Davenport, Iowa on a Sunday. And then, I'm driving on my phone on Twitter, like most drivers do. And then I saw it, and then I was just like, nah, this is bullshit. Because I was listening to ESPN on the radio, and they hadn't mentioned it. And then a couple other things popped up. And then when he died, I bawled. Like, I cried hard that day up until showtime. And then I cried on the way home because, that dude I'm a big sports fan. You know this. And so that dude and basketball is like my thing. And that dude was a part of my life for 25 years. Like, I saw him being an arrogant asshole to someone I couldn't stand, to being like, I could tolerate that dude. I like what he's turned into. And then just like gone. And then, being a father, and then finding out his daughter was in it. It was all those things just kept being another layer. So I hate not calling them top 10, but putting them outside of my top 10 was the hardest thing. I think my top 11 players in totality was easy. The easiest thing was ranking 1 and 2. My number 1 and number 2 players just my philosophy of it. That was a no-brainer for me. But
Explain what you wanted to do to be in the GOAT conversation, greatest of all time. You had like a criteria. Could you break that down real quick for everyone?
so my criteria for ranking like my top 25 is basically who could win me the most championships in any era. I could build a team around that person, that dude, to win me the most championships. So once I got number one off there, so if you took number one off the list, then who can win me the most? If you take number two off the list, then who can win me the most? So it's basically that. I factor in nothing else. I don't know where all of these crazy algorithms coming in where they're trying to do it. I know where it is. It's if someone has achieved more than another person and you want to give that person, move them up, so you have to discredit that person, right?
Yeah.
You have to say what that person did doesn't count. So you have to discredit them to justify moving that person up. And I guess at some point I did that because there's some people that have better bodies of work than others. So I factored in all sorts of things, but I explained why they were great, but then I explained why they weren't higher. I think that might be the different thing that I did on anybody else's list. It's like I go, this guy is great. Here's why he's not higher.
That's what I liked, actually. That stuck out to me. This guy, Brian Kenny, who's an MLB network analyst, he wrote a book, and he's also a boxing guy, too. He's good. I like what he does. His book was really interesting because he looked at like statistics in a cool way. But then he also, when it came to the Hall of Fame, he said, I'll never say why a person shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Because look, these people worked hard. They're obviously in the conversation. They've got family. I don't want to ever, there's just no need for that. I'll only give a case for why someone should be in the Hall of Fame, never why they shouldn't be. So when you were saying, like, here's why they're not higher, that's what stuck out to me because everyone's read a million lists. There's lists all over the fucking place.
And there's never very few context explain it. So then when I changed, so it went from why it's not higher, but then when I got to the top 5, I switched to why it's not higher to why he's not the greatest of all time. Because I believe the top 5, you're going to consider them to be the greatest of all time. So like I had Magic at 5, and like the thing that I held Magic back the most was like, no one had easier teams to play with than Magic. Like, the Lakers, that's what I say, like those organizations matter. We talk about, like, I admit that Kevin Garnett, where I had him at, Kevin Garnett could be higher if he played with an organization like the Lakers, but he didn't. He played for Minnesota all those years. But then when he got to the Celtics, you were like, oh, what? This dude is different than what we thought when we only saw him 1-2 times a year on TNT at the 9:30 game, even though they played in Minnesota, but they was Western Conference.
Yeah.
We saw them. But I remember the one year that he did have a squad, he gave Shaq and Kobe all they could handle, and it wasn't until Sam Cassell got hurt that they faltered in. So I was giving out little things that people just disregarded, but because I'm such a sports fan and because I'm a gambler, I got different takes than everyone. So I was able to just cover a lot of things that people that don't gamble wouldn't cover, that I could point out and be like, no, this should have happened, but it didn't happen. So
with Garnett, I'm a big Garnett fan. He's one of my favorite players. Because he's got an intensity about him. Those early Minnesota teams were pretty fun. The one with him and Stephon Marbury, and who was the one dude? Tom Gugliotta, I think.
Right.
He had a nice couple seasons there.
Gugliotta, Wally Zerbiak.
Yeah.
Joe Smith. Then when Marbury left, he got Terrell Brandon. Those dudes were decent, but you ain't gonna win a championship with those dudes as you're building the team around. They were first round exits every time. So, but like I admit, like you asked me, I go, yeah, Garnett could be higher, but this is the information that I have. And here's the one golden rule that I had was, if you didn't win at least 2 championships, you can't be in the top 10.
So let me cut you off real quick there, because not modern, but like today's NBA fan who's 17 years old or 22 years old, this is the argument I see a lot on Twitter. They go, championships are a team accomplishment, so it shouldn't matter. Why does it? Now, I want you, Kevin Bozeman, to explain to people why winning a ring in basketball matters when it comes to all-time greatness.
Well, it's simple. For one, there's way less players on the court than anybody else. There's 5. 2,
Exactly.
they're on the court way more. So as great as Tom Brady is, Tom Brady goes out and kills it. He's only killing it for 32 of the 60 minutes.
Yep.
So they still needs his defense to win.
And in baseball, you can't put the best hitter up whenever you want.
Right.
So,
and you can pitch around them.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can pitch around them. Like, that's steroids, Barry Bonds. They was just like, bases loaded. We'll walk them. We'll give up a 1. I've done the math, guys. And 1 is less than 4.
They won that game. They intentionally walked with the bases loaded. They gave out a run. Here, come on in. And they still won. It was a fucking genius move. It really was. You can't do that in basketball.
That's smart.
Foul a guy,
but with basketball, they will a lot of times they're guarding the toughest players, and and here's the thing about it that's different for basketball, football, and baseball is when you have a superstar in basketball, you build your team around that superstar.
Yes.
So you go, this is the guy. And what makes superstars great is most of the time scoring. What they say is on a superstar is like, look, if you play me conventionally, I'm going to destroy you. And so then those teams start going, sending double teams and different looks. So then you start filling in the gaps of what those other players can do, which is why so many teams have spot-up shooters on their team, because they create those mismatches. So the superstar in basketball, I always say, is the most, in terms of winning championships, it's the most important player, because if you look at the history of the NBA, besides maybe that 2004 Pistons team that won because of the dysfunctional Los Angeles Lakers where Kobe and Shaq was beefing, every team's got a first ballot, surefire Hall of Famer on there. And that's not true for any other sport.
One exception. Yeah.
Right? It's not true. Like for football, Trent Dilfer won. You can, whoever your take is with Eli Manning, Brad Johnson won, Nick Foles won. So you can talk about quarterbacks being great, but there are other ways to win football games than having a dominant quarterback.
Yeah, that's a great point, because in the last
basketball, that's not the case.
Definitely not. In the last 30 years of basketball, there's been one team to win a title without a true superstar, the 04 Pistons. In football, it feels like once every 4 years, a bullshit, barely top 25 quarterback wins. You're Trent Dilfer, you're Nick Foles, right? There's always Joe Flacco, Eli Manning,
And
it doesn't happen in basketball.
Tom Brady, like the first Super Bowl he won, that was his defense. They
won that game 17-14.
Right, they only gave up minimal points to the Rams. Even like the one against Atlanta. Atlanta should have won that Super Bowl. That was just horrible play calling. And then that dude did the same thing when he was playing against
Seattle.
Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan did the same thing last year with San Fran against Kansas City. It's like, dude, you got a big lead. You gotta run the ball a little bit. There's no need to go in panic mode. And
they do this bad combo where they're just so afraid.
That won Tom Brady the Super Bowl. And it's just like, dude, there's so many things you need in football. Even special teams count. But when basketball, it's a 48-minute game, and those dudes are on the court for 40 minutes, and it's only 5 of them. There is no denying that the superstar dictates who wins the championship, which is why it's easier for me to put together that list, because I got my thoughts, opinions about football. I got my thoughts, opinions about baseball, but it's easier to do with basketball because I know what it takes to win a championship. And
All right, yeah.
and when they lose, it's so easy to point out why they lost.
Very true. Very true. I've noticed this too. Well, this was interesting because right after your top 25 list came out, ESPN released a list and everyone was arguing over the top 10. Your number 5 was Magic Johnson. Your number 4 is LeBron James, correct?
Yeah.
Now, I remembered on, I think, ESPN's list, their number 4 was
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell, which a lot of people had a problem with.
It's garbage.
And it's garbage. People look at Bill Russell being like he wasn't better than he played with 5 Hall of Famers or 4 Hall of Famers. And,
right, and you could have that take. That's fair.
How was he head to head against guys like I know Wilt put up big numbers against him?
He beat them all. This is what I say about Bill Russell. You either have him either 1 or 2, or you got him like 9 or 10. You either say, look at all these dudes he played with, or you go, look what he accomplished. You can't kind of put him in the middle of the road. That's why I felt like they did. They put him in the middle of the road. But this is why I got Jordan and Russell as 1 and 2. And my rule is simple is they're the only 2 dudes, and it's really true for all the team sports. Except you can maybe make a case for Gretzky, except for the Calgary Flames beat them in 89, I believe. Jordan and Bill Russell are the only 2 dudes in team sports that could say these 3 things. I'm the best player in the league. I got my team built around me, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing, right? So how am I going to say that somebody is better than those 2 when I've seen that somebody have the best player, have to be the best player in the league, have their team built around them, and still lose?
Yeah,
it's just, to me, that seems to be the most logical thing. It's like I've seen LeBron James, I've seen Tom Brady be the best player in the league, have his team built around me. There's my homeboy. That's how.
It's a good son right there. I got to get mine to do that.
That's the only reason to have kids.
Yeah, right. So they have to get up off their chair.
Run drinks up to you while you talk to your homies.
Fuck yeah, man.
So how can I say Tom Brady?
I'm sorry.
What's that?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Why would I like Tom? I've seen Tom Brady do that in every team sport. I've seen like, oh, that's the best player in the league, right? That dude, LeBron won 66 games, lost 61 games, lost 58 games, lost 60 games, lost. It's just like, okay, like you can't keep saying to me he didn't have a squad.
I know.
I don't share this. I'll share this with you when we get to the point, because I keep teasing it of why of LeBron James and why people view his teams as bad. There is a reason for it.
Okay, well, I'm excited for that too, because I know you always are able to. Whenever I talk basketball with you, where I'm like, shit, that's new, and I didn't even think of it quite that way. And you had a real interesting one about LeBron before. LeBron is such an interesting guy because, we were talking earlier about how tough Jordan's life was because he couldn't do anything. Look at Jordan's crew, right? We were talking about, you're saying you wouldn't want to drink with Jordan. Think about the people Jordan hung out with. Jordan's best friends were security guards.
Yeah.
Like that security dude with the weird long hair. That guy with the weird hair that did that was the meme.
Right. Yeah.
That guy was legitimately one of his best friends.
We used to do that all the time growing up, flipping quarters on the sidewalk. We would go to the second where where the concrete slabs are, and then there's the line where they laying up the slabs now.
Sure,
so flip quarters to the second line to see who can get it closest. But sometimes we would do it up against the wall to see who can get up closest up against the wall. That's the game Jordan was playing. It's basically flipping quarters to see who can get closest.
I figured it was something like that. I used to play I had a friend who had a pool table in his basement, and we would roll the ball, and whoever could get it closest without touching the rail, you'd play that one with pool balls. I used to play dice. We'd play dice in the alley for dollar bills.
Yeah, of course.
And 6 or 7 kids, we'd go around the block from the school right after school and throw them off there was a brick garage right off a long avenue there, and we'd throw them right off of that shit.
Yeah. Dude, it's just a way of, people love to gamble. We used to, when we were growing up, we used to go and go to the bowling alley and gamble against the the gang bangers, 8 or better is what the best what the bets were. If you bowl an 8 on your first row, you won. If you didn't, you lose. And they were like straight up the thugs in our hood, and we gambled. They would bet against us rolling the ball, and if you were good, they would push it to 9 or better. If you
give you odds.
Yeah, right. It was always gambling. But getting back,
what was the name of the gang? Real quick. No, I don't want to get back to it yet. What was the name of the gang? I'm curious.
What, we were just bowling. So we would bowl.
Oh no, but you said against the gangbangers. What was the name of the gang? I said.
Oh, Black Gangsters, Disciples.
Okay, cool. So I'm always a little curious.
Folks.
I was talking about. Did you remember the gang, the Royals?
The Royals.
There was a gang called the Royals. They were more like towards Bridgeport. I'll never forget this. My dad worked for the Chicago Park District on the south side, and I think they weren't black. They were Hispanic mostly, I believe. But these dudes were all wearing Royals hats, and I was like 6 or 7 at the park that he was working at, and they were like, off on their side. There's a bunch of them that were wearing Royals hats, and I'm like, Sox Park is like right by there. Why shouldn't they be White Sox fans? And I was obsessed with baseball cards, so I knew the Royals and the White Sox had like a little bit of a rivalry. I like, why are they? Do they all like George Brett? Why are they wearing Royals hats? And my dad was like, no, it's a gang. They're called the Royals. I remember that stuck with me.
That's not George Brett, you idiot. Get in the car. Stop trying to get his autograph.
Oh no, my dad was not afraid of them at all. My dad was feared at these parks. I'm not kidding you. My dad was a dude who should have been promoted to like way higher, but they always offered him these promotions at like rough parks because he had a reputation. My dad's a big guy. He's like 6'4", big shoulders, you know what I mean? And
what did he do?
He worked for the Chicago Park District.
So he was the Joe Clark of Chicago Park Districts? Remember
basically,
you
know who my dad was? He was the white Leroy Brown, but he didn't get his ass kicked at the end of the song.
Bad Kilgallon?
Yeah, man. I mean, my dad played hockey in college. He was a good athlete, but he was fast. He was like deceptively fast.
I always worry that if I ever got into a fight, I would almost rather fight an MMA fighter than a hockey player. Because I know for a fact that they can probably take my first punch.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's disheartening when you fight. If you fight and someone can take your punch, that's not good, because eventually they're going to get a shot in on you. And you know what I'm saying? Like a hockey player, I believe they can take a punch. An MMA fighter, they know how to fight, but you get lucky and get them with a punch and knock them out. But a hockey dude, losing teeth, all of that, I don't think that's a thing. So I wouldn't want to fight either one of them, to be sure.
No, definitely not.
I would take an MMA fighter over somebody like Bob Probert, right?
Yeah, those dudes are just built differently, some of those guys, Yeah,
that dude was there just to fight.
Yeah, that's how he had a career. Just get hit and hit back.
Make sure that if anybody get a little loose, you knock him out, intimidate him. And people didn't want to fight that dude, so you don't think he had an effect on that game?
Dude, hockey players have all come from, like, I think a lot of it's a cold weather sport. The Canadian ones, they grew up in that kind of like frigid Canadian, like this working class and it's still an expensive sport, especially in America. I don't know. Canada, I feel like subsidizes it, but it's an expensive ass sport. It's really expensive. So I feel like some of the hockey parents are like, if I'm going to
it's part of their tuition for school.
Yeah, I think it is actually, right?
You got to pay for pencils, skates. You got to.
Yeah, man, I got to get my pads. I got to wash my pads. Got a helmet, mouth guard. So I think it's an expensive sport. So the parents of hockey players are like, oh, your ankle hurts? Yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm paying $500 fucking dollars. Right. You're going to skate on a bad ankle. So they just get tough.
Yeah.
The stories of hockey players every year, well, not this year, but every year when the NHL playoffs and the NBA playoffs go on at the same time. I love both. And when I don't know, the first couple rounds of the NBA playoffs kind of suck, but when you're watching both, it always happens on Twitter where they go, hockey player, fucking 17 stitches, like tore his hamstring, skate broke like his he had an artery they had to shut off, like, collapsed lung, lost an eyeball. Like, obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit here. Still plays. Comes
No,
back
no,
out
you're not. You exaggerating a little bit.
a little bit.
You'll
He
see
knocked
it.
his teeth out, and then meanwhile they'll show like fucking the meme of LeBron James being carried out because it was too hot. It was too hot.
Right.
He got carried out, and it's funny, you know.
Are you a LeBron fan?
No, look, here's my thing. I do like LeBron James. When they beat Golden State, I was rooting for them so hard. I watched Game 7 at my buddy Ryan Dalton's place in LA, surrounded by a lot of Cleveland people who lived in LA but were from Cleveland, and I was rooting for them. And I do like a lot of LeBron, but I hate his fucking fans. Do you know how like Hillary supporters in 2016 were like, I like Bernie, but I hate Bernie supporters. That's their whole thing. That's how I feel about LeBron. I think LeBron is a great human being. He's a great player. He's dynamic in a lot of ways, fun to watch, but also frustrating to watch because I feel like there's more he could do. I feel like he's one of those dudes, right? I know you probably agree with me.
Go into that.
Let me go into this real quick, though. I noticed about him, and what I loved about you is you talked about how he cares about his brand, and he fucking does. Yep. He has this thing where people will say LeBron's got to attack more. He's got to take control. So then the next game, he'll spend the whole first half driving to the basket, being like, I'm going to dominate. I'm going to take control like they said I couldn't. And then he burns himself out. And then in the second half, he's looking for his teammates to contribute, but they're like, hey, dickhead, we spent the last first half watching you play because you didn't include us. And now you're including us, but we're fucking cold because we weren't shooting the first 2 quarters. And now we're bricking, and you're looking at us like it's our fault. And it's like, hey, man, he doesn't know what lever to pull because it's either I'm going to be the guy that's passing all the time, and then it's like, hey, dude, you got to fucking score the basket too. You're great. Or he's the guy that's scoring all the time and doesn't. And then when he gets to that game, he starts to fill in the check. He starts to pad it. I really do believe he pads his stats. I think he looks to well-rounded stats. I do.
Which is going to bring me to now with my big reveal on Kilgallon's podcast.
Big reveal.
Here's the big reveal of why LeBron's teams are so bad when he leaves. Because his teams aren't built in a traditional sense. Like, take, for example, everyone's argument is, like, you know, when Jordan left, you know, the Bulls the next year, Scottie Pippen, B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant made it to the All-Star team, and LeBron's team was shit. And my argument is always, like, take basketball out of the equation, just keep it whatever business. Would you rather have your foreman lead his floor people to great heights, and then when he leaves, they still perform at a high level? Or would you rather have a foreman that takes his team to not as great heights, and when he leaves, they all fall apart? But the reason why they fall apart is because they're building around LeBron James, which is what we talked about, building around a superstar. But the teams that the team that he requires to succeed is dysfunctional as a team. Like, Jordan's like, give me a point guard that can hoop. Give me a small forward that can hoop. Give me a power forward that can hoop. Give me a center that can hoop. I'll make it work as long as they can hoop. But LeBron James needs shooters. All his team needs shooters. So when you get Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, James Jones, Mike Miller, all those guys that can shoot, right?
Ray Allen.
Can't do old school Ray Allen, not prime Ray Allen, but older Ray Allen. But what they can't do is create their own shot. So whenever he's off the court, they struggle to score because they don't have anyone. And it's hard for them to get a point guard because people always talk about how unselfish he is. But to me, on a team concept, he's arguably the most selfish because he demands to bring the ball up all the time. I watched the game, and they got rid of Isaiah Thomas. This is when Isaiah Thomas was Cleveland. They had Isaiah Thomas and Derrick Rose, and Isaiah Thomas, he grabbed a rebound, and he got the ball, and Isaiah Thomas just bounced the ball back in fury to LeBron James, because LeBron James would bring the ball up the court. Imagine you're a 5'8" point guard, and all you've done is run point guard your entire life. And at that point, they're going, no, LeBron will bring it up. So they have to, everyone, if you think about every superstar that played with him, the first thing they do is talk about how they had to change their game to fit in with LeBron. Remember, Dwayne Wade was like, I had to take a step back. Kevin Love was like, I have to figure out what play with LeBron. All these dudes had to figure out. That's why I also say, even though Anthony Davis and Dwayne Wade was the most talented, Kyrie Irving was his best teammate because Kyrie Irving did all the things that LeBron needed somebody to do. Kyrie was like, what do you want me to do? Spot up, shoot a three? You want me to create my own shot? I can do that. Check. I can do that. Check. I can also get people involved because guess what? I'm a point guard, which is also why Kyrie Irving bounced. He was like, dude, I'm a point guard. So all of his teams are dysfunctional when he leaves because they don't fit as a whole. LeBron, to his greatness, makes those teams fit. But when he leaves, there's not a well put together team. But Jordan's like, yo, I'm going to show you how it's done. This is how you ball. This is how you compete. And when he bounces, everybody's like, this is how you ball. This is how you compete. So they know how to do it. But that other squad is like, who's going to create a shot? J.R. Smith? No. Who's going to create him a shot? J.R. Smith? Mike Miller? None of those dudes. They all fall into this LeBron. He's almost like a crack dealer where he's like, if you open, for sure, I'll get you to rock. But then when he leaves, they don't have anybody else on the team that can get them to rock. Anybody that can create shots for them. So they're all dysfunctional. They don't know how to hoop because it's not a well put together team. It's a well put together team for LeBron. If you look at every team that LeBron's looking for, like the Lakers, they're like, dude, LeBron needs somebody else that can handle the rock. They need somebody else. That's always a fault of this team. They need somebody else to create shots for them because he is so ball dominant. You never see anyone else bring the rock up except for LeBron. Even Scottie Pippen was the point guard, but Jordan would bring the ball up. BJ would bring the ball up. Other dudes would bring the ball up because it wasn't important. But like you got a shooter here, a shooter there, and the one thing spot-up shooters can't do is create their own shots, beat dudes off the dribble. So now they're pigeonholed. Like, I'm in the corner, I'm waiting. Well, guess what? You don't have anybody to create for you, so I'm just going to stand here, and now you can't create. And so when he leaves, his team falls apart, and everybody's like, well, look how shitty his team is. But that's the team that LeBron James wants. So what's a shit team on paper is actually LeBron James' ideal team. And then when he doesn't win, you go, he didn't have enough. No, he had everything that he needed. It just wasn't good enough.
I 100% agree. And what kills me, sorry, I had a little back sound on there. What kills me the most is that all these, like LeBron, they call them bronze sexuals on Twitter.
Hey, by the way,
they fucking
get people really involved in our comedy, by the way.
What's that right now?
This is gonna get people really into our comedy.
Oh no, I know we're fucking. Dude, we haven't been funny.
This is why we need to stay away from each other because
I know
we as such sports fans, dude. We're like, fuck comedy, dude. Let's just tell people the way it should be.
We could be a little funny along the way, though.
A little bit.
You were like, who's gonna create a play? J.R. Smith? You don't hear that shit or that stuff if we're auditioning for real radio. You don't hear that stuff on sports radio. No, yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's such a great insight because when people say, look at his teams fall apart without him, I'm like, is that a plus in his column? It tells me that he's a bad leader in a sense, you know? And what I've always killed me is like I mentioned on Twitter, all the people are obsessed with LeBron James and they coddle. I've never seen someone, yes, he's been under a lot of pressure. The fact that he was on Sports Illustrated in high school and blah, 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 whatever. The thing that kills me is that they stick up for him in a way where I'm like, you don't think he's the GM? He's the GM too. He's telling these teams, do this, do that. He's made himself so valuable that when he came back to Cleveland, the first thing they did, he signed with them after leaving Miami and said, trade for Kevin Love, which always was weird to me because I'm like, why wouldn't you try to groom a guy? Like, you know, I'm not taking anything away from Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen is a fantastic player. So when I say this, please don't – I don't want people listening being like I'm taking away from Scottie. But Michael Jordan did help groom him.
Of course.
Scottie didn't come into the league as an all-star. He came in the league as a guy who needed work.
Came as a potential. Scottie came as a prospect,
yes.
which brings us to the question of like in his now 17th year Name one player that he took from scratch and made into an all-star.
It doesn't exist.
Mo Williams went to an all-star, but I mean like a consistent all-star. Where
Became perennial.
That and was 17 years, and 4 different teams. Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland again, and now LA. And don't say Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving was dropping 50 on people before LeBron even got there.
Yeah, if anything, it hurt his numbers.
Players got there, and that's because I'm telling you, LeBron James will absolutely, positively pass the ball to the open man. And that's why somebody had posted before. They was like, "Oh, which team do you think would be better?" And they had like LeBron and Magic Johnson. That was all I needed to see. I was like, the other team, because what do you mean? Like they're gonna be fighting to pass the rock. We're gonna have Magic running and then LeBron not hold the rock. That's not how LeBron plays. That being said, I got him at number 4, and I think there's a good chance that he'll end at number 3. But my 1 and 2, you can't talk me off that ledge. And people, I gave 4 reasons for why I did that top 25 list. And one of them, selfishly, because I'm a huge Scottie Pippen fan, was to showcase and bring to light how great Pippen was, because I had him at number 16. The other reason was like talking about Oscar Robertson and Jerry West, and it was like, people give out, and I use that as an example, like people give out lists, but they don't give out real context of why he's there and why he's not, which we also talked about. The number one, another reason was talking about Jordan and LeBron, but number 2 is like, dude, I'm all Bill Russell, man. I went and also posted videos of cats doing,
I love that.
I would I went out, and then there's that one video where Bill Russell grabbed a rebound, went coast to coast, and literally took off from a foot inside the free throw line and jumped over a dude's hand. I'm like, you don't think that translates now? Like, athleticism is athleticism, but everybody's like, he didn't play anybody. I'm like, look, he beat 3 dudes in the top 25 while they were still top 25-ish players. Wilt, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. Nobody else on that list has that on their resume, except for John Havlicek, who was Bill Russell's teammate.
Yeah.
And he was the head coach. Like, if you beat everybody, I get if you said, with that dude, he did, if you took LeBron James and put him in that era, what's LeBron going to do? Win 11 out of 13? You can't almost get better than that. And Bill Russell was hurt that 1 year he's hurt. One year he lost. He was in the finals and got hurt and didn't finish. That's the year that they lost to Bob Pettit. So that's 11 out of 12 years that he was healthy. And there's 1 year he lost to Wilt. And then the next year he came back and beat Wilt. What can you take away from that?
I know. Yeah, it's just people reaching. I have Bill Russell higher than a lot of people do too. Yeah, I mean, people were like, well, Wilt Chamberlain was the other dominant center, and look at the numbers. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 30 points against him and 25 rebounds and all this shit.
And took L's.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's about winning. You know what I mean? It is about winning. And if you want to do head-to-head comparisons, here's a lot of stuff. Here's a lot of shit people don't know or even think about. Do you know who Wilt Chamberlain struggled against? Bill Walton.
Bill Walton?
Yeah, didn't Bill Walton? No, I'm thinking of Bill Walton. Kareem and Bill Walton.
It's your podcast, and I got love for you. That's why I was like, Bill Walton?
No, I know. I'm glad you said that. I was in. The problem right now too is I get into multiple arguments and I forget which thread I'm on right now.
Yeah. And you've been drinking White Claw, so I can see.
Well, yeah, it's the White Claw. Actually, White Claw. I'm drinking a Miller Lite now. White Claw, more alcohol than the Miller Lite.
I switched to Maker's Mark, so.
I had a bottle of Maker's recently, and I fucking took care of it though.
How far do you live from me? Can we just get together and just hang? Bring your kids over.
I'd love to. Once the shit gets lifted. The only reason I've been on extreme lockdown. Your
wife is a nurse. You got to be on extreme lockdown.
Yeah, because one of us can't afford to get it. Obviously, it'll be bad for everybody involved. Yep. And she's working with people who have it. Yep. So I have. I did go to Target for the first time a couple days ago, like a week ago, I left the house. I was finally like, I wore a mask, gloves, Lysol wipes. I had hand sanitizer in my pocket. But I've left the house once since March 11th or 12th. Literally one time. Yeah, I've walked my dog around a couple blocks. I'll walk my dog around like a couple block radius. But that was my first time in a car. My car, I haven't even driven because I started it the other day to make sure it could still start. So I started every now and then. But the back tire's flat. Haven't fixed that yet. Yeah, I've been on extreme lockdown because I've had like our buddy Jonah Jerkins texted me a couple days ago, going, "Hey," or maybe 2 days ago, going, "Hey, I'm having people."
Best drinker in Chicago.
Yeah, as he likes to say. Although I know here's the difference though. I've seen him get like sleepy. I think Jonah's a good drinker, but Jonah will hit that wall where it's just like you asked me the last time I got into a fight. I told you about the time Megan gave his bachelorette party. The other time before that was after the Laugh Factory Christmas party or holiday party, whatever.
Yeah.
We went down to Big
there or something, right?
A rapist?
There was some creepy dude that was putting some stuff in people's drink at the Laugh Factory.
I wasn't like privy to that, what was going on to that, but after the party, like it ended there at like 12:31. We all went to Big City Tap, down the street, or Big Shitty, whatever people like to call it. Right. And it's a bar in Lakeview neighborhood. Everyone who's listening across the country, and every city has a douchey bar like this, but it's open to 4 a.m. I was having fun and but this dude got really fresh with our buddy Danny Callis' girlfriend, Angelia, who works at Laugh Factory and loves her to death. Right. And I was just like, what the fuck's going on? And then he shoved Joe, the bartender from Laugh Factory, from behind. And so then I lost it and just fucking grabbed him. And you get like almost like an offensive lineman. You almost want to get underneath the armpits when you fucking shove a dude. And he knocked a table over and all this stuff. And then a big brawl happened where like bouncers came in and there's a whole thing. Jonah, people were falling at his feet. And then the next day he was like, I kind of remember people falling down by me. And I'm like, dude, you're overrated when it comes to drinking. Jonah Jerkins, you are. Look, you're good. You're very, very good.
You're very good. You do, but
yeah,
everybody's like Jonah could drink and he's able to. Jonah can drink and then the next day you'll go work out. I go, that's fine, but I'm focusing on the now.
Yes.
In my now you'll probably get me because I just don't. But in my day when I was like day drinking, me and the comic, we would go to Buffalo Wild Wings and run $100 tab at Buffalo Wild Wings and get like 6 wings between us, and then go and do 2 shows and get shit faced on those shows, and then I would go out and drink like that night, and then wake up the next day and do the same shit. You ain't fading that dude. This dude, yes. I don't want to win that time, but when I was drinking like I had shit to prove, everybody was like, Jonah's such a great drink. I was like, dude, no one has told me any epic Jonah drinking stories except that he still gets up and works out when he goes. I got nothing but love for you, Jonah, but
I love this too because
you are pipping in this conversation.
Fuck yeah, man. There's always a thing I've noticed when there's stupid ass debates like this that make me go, wait a minute, that's not a point in their favor. I'm talking about the right now. That's like, dude, he gets drunk, but then the next day he's fine. Oh, so he doesn't get hangovers. How good is he the night of? It reminded me of this one fucking kid. There was this kid that, like, I think it was senior year of high school. There was a big fight that went down by the fucking Harlem Blue Line stop, and the kid got his ass kicked. And everyone was later like, I can't remember the kid's name, Chris something or other, but maybe. Yeah. And they're like, and then like 6 months later, I almost got into it with him, but then like it calmed down. And someone's like, dude, that Chris guy's pretty tough. And I'm like, why do people keep saying that? And they're like, dude, he gets into a lot of fights. I'm like, yeah, but he loses them all. He loses. How the fuck are you? You're not tough. Courageous, maybe? Balls? He's got balls? You're not tough if you lose.
You can be tough if you lose and you can get up and shake it off. But you can't, but like,
Sharon told me I shouldn't fight him, you know?
It's telling me that a fat guy can eat a lot means nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, like skinny.
If you show me a guy who's in shape and he's crushing food and he's like, this dude, he's like this every day and he's in shape, that's impressive. But if you tell me a guy is tough, I'm not saying he's not tough, but to your point, if he keeps losing, then what are we celebrating?
Yeah, the people around me brought it up like, he's tough. You might not want to fight him. And I'm like, but every fight I saw him get his ass kicked once, and I've heard other stories where he gets his ass kicked. So that's not like a thing where I'm worried about him. And it reminded me of like what you were saying before with like Jonah, who we love. Everyone's like, dude, he's a great drinker. He exercises the next day. Like that's the thing. No, how much shit can you put away?
Like, why would I want to hang out with somebody like that?
Yeah, when you exercise that. No, look, right. Jonah is a very good drinker, but the reason everyone started talking about what a great drinker he was from my podcast. The very first episode of Kilgallon's Pub, everyone. Yeah. I had Jonah Jerkins and Joe McMahon on. And Jonah was in the middle of like 27 straight days in which he was drunk. Sure, that's nice. But again, if you can get drunk 78 days in a row, but if you're getting drunk after 5 or 6 drinks, I'm not that impressed. Yeah, dude, put in the fucking work, man. Rack up a bill and still be standing at the end of the day. That's my point with that.
Listen, this is what I said. I said this. So I go, if we're gonna go shot for shot, sure, I'll give it to Jonah because I don't want to be that shot. But pick a number of shots and then let's go on stage and let's see how functional you are. That's truly the mark of a good comedian drunk. Is that person that can go up on stage and still be like, what? You were drinking? Because there's been so many times people be like, oh, man, they put something in your drink. You wasn't drinking all of that. No. Yeah, that's a compliment. When people don't believe that you've been drinking, they go, no. They've been watered down in your drinks. No, they haven't. I don't even get shit put in my drinks. It's just straight booze.
Yeah, man. You go hard with whiskey, which I respect mightily.
I love whiskey so much.
I do too. It's great. You know what whiskey means, right? Do you know what the word whiskey means?
No.
It means water of life in Gaelic, which is an old Irish language. Not old, it's still a language, but they don't speak it really. It means water of life. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, no, I always thought that was cool that whiskey meant water of life.
Have you ever done the Kentucky? Did Danny ever tell you when I brought him with me and we did the Kentucky Bourbon Trail?
No, but that sounds amazing.
Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and we did a couple of them. We did Woodford, and then we did Four Roses. But by the time we got to Wild Turkey, we didn't even do the trail. We was just like, we'll be here to do the shots when you guys are ready. And then we did 4 of the 7 on the Bourbon Trail, and still did a show that night.
That's amazing. See, that's the TV show I'm going to do. When live comedy comes back, we're going to film a pilot of comedians getting drunk as shit all day and then seeing how well they perform at night, almost like a competition. That'd be the real Last Comic Stand that everyone wants to watch.
The real Last Comic Stand.
Real Last Comic Standing. Hell yeah, man. All right, let's get back to the basketball list real quick. I don't want to hold you too long. We're both dads and all that stuff. So I like what you said with LeBron. Like his fans, again, they coddle him in the way where they always make excuses for his losses. And again, I do like LeBron. He's number 4. I think is a good spot for him. I have him a little bit higher at number 3.
Where'd you have Kareem?
I put Kareem at number 2. I had Jordan, Kareem, LeBron, Russell, then Magic at 5.
See, I'm on that. Like, I just feel like you can't put Russell there. He's got to be either 1 or 2 and 9 or 10. I just like.
I'm weird though. I'm weird like that.
But his resume is so good that either you have to discount it entirely, or you have to give him full credit.
Maybe I just have to dig deeper into Bill Russell because there's some NBA legends that I just kind of go off of like. Yeah, those are pretty undeniable. When you share, I did watch that YouTube link where you show him like taking 1-7 over the free throw line and going over dudes. Where it's like, oh yeah, that'll play in any era. Can we mention eras real quick? I can't stand when people go, well, this guy in that era. I'm like, oh, you mean the guy from 2020 who has the best gym shoe technology ever and spends $1 million on his body every year? You mean to tell me he's going to be better than guys who were smoking on the bench? Oh wow, like that shit kills me. There was some guy I heard on. I wish I knew the name so I could give them the shout out they deserve. It was someone on local Chicago sports radio that said there should be a stat or a category called dominance based on era, like dominance by or DBE.
Yeah.
And like obviously Babe Ruth's numbers are the most ridiculous. He had 1 year where he had as many home runs as other teams combined. So obviously he's way up there. I thought about Jordan. I looked at it the year he won his first scoring title, which would have been his second full season. Although his first season he had the most points, but Dominique Wilkins won the scoring title because he played like 5 less games, so it was a higher average. I get it. And then Jordan broke his foot the second season, but his third season, which was his second full season, he averaged 37.1. That year, and was only the second player ever to have over 3,000 points in a season. Will Chamberlain being the other, of course. That year, Jordan averaged 37 a game. The next closest player, I think, was Dominique at 29 a game. Right. Think about that gap. Like I don't think there's been an 8-point gap since. That is dominance where you, and I want to mention this too, Kevin, before, and I know you're going to blow my mind with some amazing stuff. I meant to say this earlier.
That's not true. But
maybe not, but I keep wanting to bring this thought up, and I don't want to forget this thought. Today's NBA fans, so many of them, I don't know if it's the times we're growing up in, stop acting like assists and rebounds, which are incredibly important. I'm not taking that away.
Right.
Are equal to scoring. They're not. Scoring is the most important stat. Here's why I like advanced stats a little bit. I know you said earlier you're not quite as into them. In baseball, they're really fun.
No. I'm not quite into analytics.
Oh, I got you. All right, cool. But there's a cool advanced stat, or maybe, I don't know, sabermetric, I guess, in baseball. It's called weighted on base average. Now, in batting average and on base percentage.
WBOA, I know that.
You know that, right? A single is worth the same as a home run to your batting average, but we know that a single and a home run are not equal.
Yes.
So that's why I like when statistics are broken down, scoring is more important than rebounds and assists. I'm not saying rebounds and assists aren't really important, but when people go like, oh, he best scorer, I'm like, don't poo-poo best scorer. Like, that's not fucking insanely important.
Right.
A home run is weighted more than a single, and a bucket is worth more than a fucking rebound.
Because somebody scored.
Yeah, and there's so many factors that rebounds and assists, to me, to equate them to baseball, are like the runs scored and RBIs. You need your teammates are a factor. You get a lot of rebounds when people miss a lot of fucking shots.
Right.
And you get a lot of assists when people make the shots off your passes. Derrick Rose had a season where he averaged 6 assists a game. I think it was like his first or second season. If the Bulls were even an average team when it comes to field goal percentage, he would have averaged like 10 assists a game. He was passing the ball to people and they were bricking the shot. Does that mean he's a bad passer? No, he's a great passer. They didn't make the fucking shot. That's my beef.
I get it. So it's what you were saying earlier. 2 things. It's the time travel theory, where always people love to say, what if that player played back then? I go, I get it. But what if that player that played back then got to have a strength and conditioning coach, got to have someone sit there and work on his shot, watch film, and all those things. Like you can't take one without the other. You can't say they can travel back in time, but they can't travel forward in time, which is why when I had guys like Bob Pettit, who I was really on the fence with. And the reason why I put Bob Pettit 24 and Karl Malone 25 is that Bob Pettit, even though he won his championship the year Russell was hurt, Game 7 he went for 50. And I just seen Karl Malone in big moments shrink. And I always
mailman doesn't deliver on Sundays.
What made Karl Malone so great was that when everybody in his era started to age, he still played at a high level. So Hakeem got old, Barkley got old, and he was still at a high level, and that's why he got to the finals twice, because he was better than that. But the bigger point is these 3 things it doesn't matter what era. If you are a highly skilled, athletic dude, that doesn't matter where era, like I showed Russell. If you have a high basketball or high sports IQ, it doesn't matter what area. A high sports IQ figures it out no matter what. And if you are a ferocious competitor, it doesn't matter what area you play in. That's why I give Russell he was a high athletic dude, and you could talk about his skill because the league was still developing then, but it's not like he's got a high sports IQ and a high motor. Like, you don't think that he would be able to figure it out now? You don't think Bill Russell at 6'10" wouldn't learn how to shoot, wouldn't learn how to adapt his game if that was the game? Like, he's a ferocious competitor with a high sports IQ. He wouldn't be like, I can only rebound. This is it. He was the head coach when the Celtics won their last championship with him. Like, those things are transcendent. If you have those things, that's why I was able to incorporate older dudes in. But I was on the fence about Bob Pettit. And then once I put him in, like, I had to put him over. Because to me, Karl Malone and Charles Barkley are neck and neck. I believe Barkley in his prime was better than Malone in his prime. But
I agree.
I also believe that Malone's longevity was way longer than Barkley's longevity. And that's why I put it. So it's Malone, Pettit, Dwayne Wade, Elgin Baylor, Isaiah. That was like my first five. And I'm not big on little guards. Isaiah and Steph Curry were my only little guards on the squad. Because I feel like to have those dudes, they need a lot of players. Because Isaiah, when it's go time, when he's streaky, he's on. But it's really hard to be able to create scoring opportunities. He can't post you up, right? It's all about being able to, they're going to collapse. So it's really hard for him to create consistently against great teams. But if you think about those bad boys teams were absolutely loaded. If you took Isaiah off that team, they're winning 50 games anyway. But I also acknowledge that Isaiah was great.
They were such a well-rounded team. Obviously, Isaiah was their superstar, and Dumars was an all-star. And that's another myth-busting thing we could do. The idea that the Pistons got old and then the Bulls beat them. Their big three were all under 30. Isaiah was 29, Rodman was 27, Dumars was 27. So I never understood the whole, they got old. I'm like, no, you just think that because they played each other so much. They got ready, and the Bulls beat them. And when it was time to beat them, they fucking swept them. And they almost beat them the year before. Best of 7,
Right.
Obviously the migraine game was a big stain on Pippen's record, but I don't want to. Pippen's upset, I guess, about the Last Dance, and there was a moment where I'm like, I feel like that was unfair, but I still feel like the first 7 episodes of the Last Dance, everyone I knew was like a bigger Pippen fan. He was underpaid.
I still felt like he got. Here's why I feel like he got. And I think we talked about this a little bit on Twitter. You and I just had a couple of things. It's like, so you're Jordan, right? And you didn't play that year that the Bulls should have beat the Knicks. That's fine. You're going to talk about Pippen's 1.8 seconds. But how do you not spend time on that blown call? Like,
I agree. That was myth. They should have talked about it.
Jordan's take should have been, look, man, to Pippen's credit, he did that and he shouldn't did it, but that was a bogus call, and they should have won. And they replaced Jordan. I don't think people understand this. Jordan retired, started training camp, so it was hard to replace him. So it was hard to replace because training camp had started, so they couldn't.
October,
Had a journeyman, a dude that was well below average. He was supposed to probably play 8 minutes a game. Is now playing 20-something minutes a game. And Pete Myers. So you go from the best player ever, averaging 30 a game, to a dude that averages 8 points a game at a shooting guard where scoring is a premium. Like, I don't know if people talk about this, but the Bulls, I don't know if you remember this, the Bulls could have traded for Jeff Hornacek that year, and Jerry Krause didn't pull the trade.
Well, people forget it.
We could have got Jeff Hornacek, and there would have been a wrap.
Yeah, you would have been a better move because
Hornacek played for that Utah team. He was really good.
You're an old school Chicago guy, and here's how I know. His name is actually – I told this story recently on the podcast, maybe a couple episodes ago. It's Jeff Hornacek.
Hornacek.
Yeah, but here's why I call you old school.
I played against his brother.
Okay, there you go. But here's why I called you old school. I remember during the 98 finals, Hornacek hit a 3, and my dad saying, like, who the fuck was supposed to guard Hornacek on that play? He was wide open. And I said, well, it's actually Hornacek. And my dad goes, I know a Pollock name when I see one. It's Hornacek. And that, if you're not from Chicago, you're not going to get it. Right. Chicago's got the biggest Polish population outside of Warsaw. And I think at one point we were close to Warsaw's population when it comes to Polish people. And so I went to a grade school that was like 50% Polish immigrants, like immigrants.
Right.
And they're some of my best friends. So I'm not knocking Polish people, but damn, are they fun to make fun of. They just were. And that was a real Chicago moment there. But people forget how good that guy was. He was the main piece in the Barkley trade. Hornacek was a 76er, and he got traded to, he was a Phoenix Sun, and he got traded to Philadelphia for Charles Barkley. Yep. He was an all-star. He averaged 20 points a game. Yeah, he was a good ball player.
So that's what the Bulls team needed, was you lost a 30-point per game scorer. They needed more scoring, especially against the Knicks and the way they play basketball. But still, it took a bad call for them to lose that series, and I thought Jordan should have been – like, if you can sit there and say, I couldn't have won without Scottie, and then comment and say, I thought Scottie was being selfish when he sat out on that contract. And then, he had the migraine, and then he sat out the 1.8 seconds. Well, you can say all of those things. You can find 45 seconds to be like, yo, that was a bullshit call. They should have called that. And then Scottie, they got hosed on that series. That he could have, with him having final say, he could have easily have said that. And that's why I think that, like, it's legit. But Pippen, dude, here's the thing about Jordan that's undeniable. He left a lot of scars because Scottie Pippen has been low level his whole career since that, has been taking digs at Jordan. First, he was saying he did say LeBron was better than.
He did, yeah. He said Kobe too at one point.
Said Kobe. He just said that Kobe was better than him, and that's hurt. That's
he's wrong. Scottie's wrong.
He is wrong. I don't care. Like that does nothing to diminish Jordan to me. It just he won 6-0 in the finals.
6-0, and also the statistic. Like I tell people, I go, when I consider greatness, because there's always some dickhead that goes, oh, it's about rings. What about Robert Horry? It's like, you're fucking dumb. Walk away from me. Because obviously it's about rings and stats, you dipshit. Like, I don't think Steve Kerr with his 5 rings or whatever is better than Charles Barkley with 0. Duh. Right? Like, you look at Jordan, like 10 scoring titles. And when you brought up the LeBron issue, and I know LeBron, you had 4, so we're comparing 1 versus 4 on your list. But really in the public's eye, it's 1 versus 2 right now. Jordan, the leadership quality to me, was he an asshole? But it's what needed to be. Every one of those teammates was like, he was a piece of shit, he was a dick, he would cross the line, but it worked, and he did make us better. And I look at that 93-94 season, Pippen was amazing. I think he was 3rd in MVP behind Olajuwon and Robinson.
I thought he should have won. I don't know how.
Olajuwon, dude, had a year, man. I don't know.
David Robinson won it.
Oh, did David Robinson win it? Olajuwon won the next year. You're right.
I don't know, though, how you can take what everyone was widely considered, not even widely, it was almost unanimous, that Jordan was the best player in the league, and they win 57 games, and they don't replace him, and then the next 2 win 55 games. I just think the media just did, like I just don't understand how you can say, like, how that dude is not the MVP when he won 55 games. And mind you, Horace Grant was sitting out a bunch of games because he didn't want – that's another thing Horace Grant will talk about. All the games he sat out that year because he didn't want to get hurt because it was his contract year. He sat out like at least 10 games that year just because he was worried about getting hurt.
Scottie missed about 10 games too. I looked that up recently.
Yeah, minor ankle surgery or something like that.
And I looked it up. I think they were 4-6 in the 10 games he missed. Because I was curious about that.
Came back and they took off.
They're below 500 without him. Yeah. Tony Kukoc hit a lot of big shots. I think Tony Kukoc had like 3 or 4 buzzer beaters that year. And look, Pippen was 3rd in MVP, and I think you have a great case that he perhaps should have won MVP. I forgot it was Robinson. I was looking at it. I did look at this like a couple weeks ago.
It might have been Robinson and Hakeem. Where I thought Robinson,
I know they were 1 and 2 or 2 and or vice versa. I'm not sure, but I think you're right. It was Robinson and Olajuwon won the next year. Pippen, though, it's interestingly enough, he averaged 22 a game, which was a career high. The year before was like 19, and the year before was 21. So playing alongside Jordan, he averaged 21 a game. 2 years later, without Jordan, averaged 22 a game. Field goal percentage was about the same. Defensively, he stepped up a little bit more. I think he led the league in steals that year, which is the only time he ever led the league in anything. BJ Armstrong had a huge year that year. Kukoc had a big year, and Phil Jackson did some of his best coaching. And I say this not to take away from Pippen, but to mention it was this whole concerted effort of we're going to show the world that we were more than just number 23. Because people used to say it was the Jordan heirs, and people were like, "Oh, that's that's all insulting to them," and I don't blame them.
For sure.
To the leadership thing, I read a book maybe a year or two ago. It's called Extreme Ownership, and it's a book about leadership. It's written by a couple Navy SEALs. The one Navy SEAL, I think he's been on like a couple podcasts like Rogan's and a few other bigger ones. Jocko Willink, I think Jocko Willink. And the podcast, or not the podcast, the book had an interesting chapter about like captains. And in the Navy SEALs, they had a drill with like a rowing a crew thing. They'd like row boats, and it was like a team of like whoever, and they would race them. And the last place guy, after every time they finished, the captain of the last place team would just be like, "You guys fucking suck," and blah blah blah, and this team's terrible. And so that chapter made you think: is this chapter about how to be a leader? Like, should he not be telling them they suck? Should he not be whining? Because he was kind of like making excuses. The guy was all about making excuses and putting the blame on other people, even though he was the captain. And so then the team that was first place every race, because one team was first place every race, they go, "All right, we're going to try an experiment. We're going to switch the captains. The captain of the first place team, you're going to now be the captain of the last place team, where this captain is always complaining. And this captain of the last place team, we're going to make you the captain of the first place team. Let's see what happens." The very first race, the loser captain, they actually won, of him being the captain of the winning team. But guess what? The team that was dead last every time took I mixed. Did I miss that? Did I switch that? Yeah, hold on. Let me explain it again. Not the whole thing, but they switched the leaders, right?
Yep.
And the team that was winning all the time lost their leader. They still took second place, I think it was.
Uh-huh.
And the team with the new leader ended up like not being as good. And the point of that was, why did the team that lost their leader still do really well? Well, because they learned all this shit under their previous kick-ass leader. And that's what made me think of the 93-94 Bulls. Because a lot of people will be like, look, without Jordan, the 93-94 Bulls, 7 games in the second round of the playoffs. I always have to remind people it's the second round because everyone always acts like we're this close to the finals. Second round. And I don't know if they say that to give Pippen more respect, which I'm all about, or if they're trying to take away from Jordan. I bring it up because if you take that same group of guys and they had never played with Jordan ever, are they winning 57 games? My answer is no, they're not.
Yes,
they learned how to win.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing that's weird that people don't even talk about. Like, part of Jordan's development was playing against his brother and never beating his brother, which just drove him, infuriated him and stuff. And you see all of these guys that always have somebody, even like Grant Hill, his dad was a professional football player. Kobe Bryant, his dad was that. LeBron James was a naturally gifted dude, and there's no, body necessarily out there for him to do that. But his dad was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
His big brother was in a wheelchair, and he was slow to develop. So he didn't play anyone at all on his level until he got to the NBA. So people like Jordan made him like, yeah, there was nobody else to make him. He was a late bloomer. Like, almost everybody has gotten made. So, like, I don't feel like if we say Jordan made him, like, I feel like Scottie Pippen goes to the NBA. He's great. He's going to be great, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Jordan probably took him to heights he couldn't get to, for sure. I agree with that. But I believe Scottie Pippen would have been great because he had never been. I was like, when his first NBA game was the first time he played against anybody that was like, oh, shit, there's other people out here with my skill level.
Yeah, because he's from Central Arkansas. And yeah, I thought about that. What would Pippen's career have been like if he was just a Seattle Supersonic? Krause doesn't make that trade, pairs him with Jordan, all that kind of stuff. I think he makes some all-star games and stuff like that, and maybe Hall of Fame. I don't think he's a top 50 NBA player like the consensus is on Scottie
Well,
Pippen.
a lot of those dudes.
I don't think he's at that level.
A lot of those dudes made top 50 because of the teams that they played for. Would McHale have been top 50 without Larry Bird?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Top 50 without Magic? You know what I'm saying? Like
they need to redo that list, that top 50 list.
Well, for 1996, the only thing that I had a problem with when that list came out was 1996 was that Shaquille O'Neal over Dominique Wilkins was the biggest travesty ever. There's no way that 4 years of Shaquille O'Neal was better than Dominique Wilkins' entire career. Just no way. No way.
Yeah, that's a bad one. I forgot about that.
Dominique Wilkins should have been top 50, and there's no way Shaquille O'Neal is top 10 now. But you're saying to me that 4 years of Shaquille O'Neal? 4?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is the 50? Is in the top 50 ever?
That's
4?
nuts.
And it was, at the time, it was just 3.5 years because it was the 96.
I totally forgot that.
He came in 92, and in 96, they announced the team, I believe.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it was the 96, 97 season or 95, 96, whatever. It was like the 50-year anniversary of the NBA.
I thought that was the year that the Bulls were in their 70 game.
I think it was the 72-win season. You're right. Remember at the All-Star game, they all wore the jackets.
So this would have been Shaquille O'Neal's 4th year.
Yeah, because he was 92, 93, 93, 94, 94, 95, 95, 96. You're right, 4 years.
And you're saying that that's better than Dominique? It just
that
was the biggest.
Dominique Wilkins, I'm going to give you a couple homework assignments, actually, because Dominique Wilkins, I think, is so forgotten. I want you to do a top 25 most underrated NBA players. I want you to do a top 25 greatest athletes of all time, and that goes for any sport. Because you mentioned Gretzky. When you mentioned Gretzky earlier, I'm like, oh, man, I'd like to see what Bozeman has to say about the 25 best athletes of all time. Because it's always interesting when they do those lists, because there's always one player where everyone's like, is he really the best athlete? What about this guy? This guy was a letterman in 3 different sports. And there's forgotten athletes. Like someone made a tweet about LeBron James being the best high school athlete of all time. And then someone goes, Joe Mauer. Joe Mauer is the best high school athlete of all time. And I didn't even know anything about Joe Mauer as a high school athlete. Joe Mauer I just knew as the catcher for the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
Joe Mauer was the best basketball player in the state of Minnesota, the best baseball player in the state of Minnesota, the best football player in the state of Minnesota, had D1 offers for basketball, football, and, of course, baseball, went on to focus on baseball, won multiple MVPs as a catcher, and then I think he also bowled a perfect game or something like that in bowling. Like the guy was or maybe it was a golf. Like he was like a 4-sport freak athlete. Jackie Robinson was an insane high school athlete. Like I'd like to get into like these deeper lists.
So, Allen Iverson was basketball All-America and then
football,
football quarterback All-America.
Was he quarterback? I always thought he was a running back for some reason.
Yeah, he's quarterback All-America. I don't quote me on that, but I know he's All-America. No, I think there's only one other dude that can say that. Do you know who he is?
No, who?
Fred Hoiberg.
Really? That's funny.
Tom Osborne recruited him to play quarterback at Nebraska.
Nice. One of my favorite pieces of trivia is ever, who was the only athlete to be drafted in all 3 sports or all 3 major sports?
Oh, I felt like I knew that. Who?
One guy was drafted by NBA, MLB, and NFL, and that's Dave Winfield. The Hall of Fame baseball player who famously played at the University of Minnesota, and he famously punched a guy in the head during March Madness. I think it was like the second round. I think it was Yeah, I think it was the second round of the tournament. He got into a fight and fucking decked a guy on national television during March Madness. Yeah, I got to find that on YouTube somewhere. I think it's on there. I remember seeing the highlight.
I do all sorts of weird shit. This guy does this book of illustrations, Tom Jeter, and he asked me to do a top 10 list. So I gave him my the top 10 whatever. So I'm sticking with what I know. I gave him my top 10 players that I would want to have in any era if I wanted to go 82-0 in the NBA.
Ooh. Who do you? Oh, man,
I'm a psychopath.
Man, that's fucking nuts. I mean,
and then I of course even spiced it up and said, it's not fair to give you the player. I'm going to give you the player and the year that I wanted the player.
Damn. See, I like that though.
So I gave him that, and so he did an illustration. I did a write up, and so but he reached out to me and asked who I thought was the most underrated. He's doing a new one, the most underrated that I think of all time is anything, whatever. Of course, I stick with sports. And of course, I'm such a homer, but I picked Wilbur Marshall.
Oh, okay, that's a good underrated.
I picked Wilbur Marshall. I said Wilbur Marshall was so good that he cost the Bears an undefeated season. Because that year they lost to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins was running those 3 wide receiver spreads, which was uncommon back then. But Buddy Ryan thought that Wilbur Marshall and his athletic freakness could be able to cover a wide receiver instead of switching out of their base formation. So they would spread Wilbur Marshall out in this little slot wide receiver, and Nat Moore caused all sorts of problems. And that's why Dick and Buddy Ryan got into a fight at halftime. Because Dick was like, what the fuck are you doing? You got to switch it out. And they almost came to blows. And Miami dropped 38 on him because he refused to make the necessary adjustment and go with an extra defensive back. And so I wrote with Wilbur Marshall. He was also Defensive Player of the Year. And then when he left the Bears defense got like dramatically worse. They were still decent, but they got dramatically worse because that dude could rush the quarterback, guard, cover running backs and tight ends. But Buddy Ryan had him trying to cover a wide receiver, and they just exploited him. And that's the only Bears lost that year, 15-1. So I went Wilbur Marshall.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I would really think hard about mine. Whenever I think,
I'm just a weirdo.
That's a good local one. I think I'd have to go like. Whenever I think underrated, I always think Hakeem Olajuwon because people never bring him up enough. I feel like he was such a.
I'm not gonna call him that. I got him. Most people got him in their top 12. I got him 7th.
7's a good call for him, I think. But look, man, I'm holding a piss like you wouldn't believe. I think we're going to wrap up the podcast now, but you got your homework. I'm going to follow up with you on this, and I'd like to talk again. I'll help you with the list. Maybe we could do one together of underrated and athletes, like in general, not just basketball or baseball or football, but like.
Yeah, but what's the criteria for athlete? Is Jesse Owens on there?
I think we'd have to make a list. We'd have to do a criteria. I don't know, man. Dude, I'm going to piss my pants in 1 second. I swear to fucking God. You want to talk to everyone and tell them where you're from, and I'll be back. Tell them where they can find your YouTube and shit, and I'll be back to close it off. I need like 30 seconds.
I got it. So this is weird. This is actually my show. I wish there was some way I could change this graphics. You can catch me on YouTube at The Kevin Bozeman, where I have a new YouTube show called Happy Hour with Kevin Bozeman. Kind of like Kilgallon's, but probably not as dope as he is, but still it's the same thing. I just want to drink with my friends. I mean, that's it. That's what I miss most is drinking and hanging out with my friends. Also catch my special Clean and Unfiltered on YouTube channel. It's not on the Kevin Bozeman page. Somebody else owns it, but I still get paid for it, so definitely watch it. Clean and Unfiltered on Kevin Bozeman Dry Bar Comedy. It's a clean set too. 43 minutes of all clean material. And then I'm on Twitter, Kevin Bozeman. Facebook, I believe that's jammed up, but follow my Facebook fan page, Kevin Bozeman. I don't know who's out there. I can't see shit, but I'm used to talking to myself anyway. So This is pretty dope. I'm glad. This is a great way to kill Tuesday evening, by the way. If you got a Tuesday evening, you got shit going on. What a perfect way to do just be on the internet and chat with your friends. Oh, we back.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Thanks for killing the time for me.
Never mind.
No, dude, I was holding it so bad. That should be a part of. We also need to do criteria of what makes a great drinker, because do you give bonus points for people who could hold the seal longer?
No.
Why? That shouldn't matter.
Why?
Yeah, right. Who cares?
What do you get? You're telling me, like, I always think about, could you beat the woman, Indiana Jones, shot for shot, Raiders of the Lost?
Oh man, probably not. No, I don't know.
I think she faced all of us. And I was so disappointed when they brought her back on that last bullshit Indiana Jones.
I didn't see that one, so I don't even know.
He was like 70 years old, punching people, knocking people off of trains and shit.
Dude, Harrison Ford needs to retire. There needs to be
They brought her back, and I was just like, oh shit, she's gonna at some point have to outdrink somebody. No, I was like, dude, what?
What'd she do? What'd she do in it then?
Not to be a spoiler, because I'm sure this is probably 10 years ago, but
I don't care.
She was the mom of Indiana Jones, and they had a baby together. They had a kid together.
Ooh.
Who was Shia LaBeouf?
Oh, Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf. Is it Shia LaBeouf or Shia LaBeouf?
I think it's Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf is the kid. And
French.
She's the mom, but she never has a drinking excursion. I was bummed about that.
That's sad. Yeah, I mean, whiskey is what created that kid. So
the water of life.
Hell yeah, literally the water of life in that situation. Fuck yeah, that's a good note to end it on.
I gave everybody everything that they need to love and adore me forever.
Well, good, man. Now I'd love to get together with you in person too, but now that this technology is available and easy, I got to get you back on to talk more sports with me and everything like that and other stuff. I'm sure you got lists on different things. But it's fun because I like that you see these listed in a different angle than other people do, which makes it more fun to discuss. It's not just here's this and here's this and here's this. You make me think, and which is fucking awesome, because a lot of other people, you read the list.
You reached out to me and told me that. I don't want to say flabbergasted. I don't want to say honored, but I was pleasantly surprised that you sent out to be like, dude, your list is that was. Dude,
I shared.
I don't agree with your list, everything on this list, but the way you're breaking it down is impressive. So I was.
Yeah, man, you made it tough to argue. So I want to see where it keeps going with this shit, man, because it's fun. Film them, dude. Film your.
Sent me things to create other lists, but I was just like, well, one, it's not easy putting together.
No, they're not easy. It's work, yeah.
Rev up the engines again, but yeah, I was thinking about doing top 10 running backs, top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 wide receivers, and then I was thinking about doing a top 25 baseball. You take Barry Bonds. I know we got to go, but we take Barry Bonds.
Yeah, that's cool.
If we take Barry Bonds, steroids, Barry Bonds out of the list from 1980 on, I think I take Ricky Henderson.
Oh, dude, I love Ricky Henderson. One of my favorite players. We were talking about. I was talking about with
walks. He makes walks, triples.
Dude, exactly. It's such a fucking, and it's weird.
He stresses. I love a dude that stresses the defense out. He stresses the defense out, and he hit for power. He almost had 300 home runs.
Yeah, he still has the most leadoff home runs ever. He was good for about 20 to 25 a year for a good stretch. Hit a great eye, stole basically right. He took walks and turned them into triples. Ricky Henderson, I was talking about this with Mike Bridenstine. I'm sure he's a comedian you've met a few times. He's a big baseball guy, and we were joking, saying that hockey is cool because for a while, hockey had their divisions named after famous people who had played the sport. So like the Norse division, Yeah. And so we're like, if baseball were to rename each division after the best player to play in that division, what would you call each? The AL West, we were calling the Henderson division.
Yeah.
We were like, he's the best player to play in the AL West. So we're like, or we did a thing where we were talking about how there was one of the Cleveland Browns were named after like their owner who was Brown. Right. And there was a thing, I guess this has been debunked, but for a while, the story was the Cleveland Indians got their name because the best player on the team was Native American. Because it's multiple stories, and it's one of those things where it's like some people go, it's bullshit. Some people are like, no, it's really true. I've Googled it, and I've gotten answers on both sides. The Cleveland Indians were originally the Cleveland Spiders, and the city were like, this is a fucking terrible team name. We're like bitching about how dumb. This is like in the early 1900s. And at the time, the best player on the team was a dude named Napawisha. It was a Native American name. And so they renamed the team after him. And so we were joking, saying if you were to rename each team after the best player, Oakland Henderson. So Ricky Henderson was the only guy we had for best division and for the best player to play for that organization. And so, like, obviously the Giants would have been we were tossed between Mays and Bonds because we're like, do you count the Roids? Do you not count the Roids? We're like, all right, we'll count the Roids to the San Francisco Bonds. The Cubs were the Cubs Banks. The Sosa was real close. The White Sox were the Big Hurt. We called them the Chicago Big Hurt because Frank Thomas was the best White Sox player ever, although it's tough without playing the field. But it was a fun conversation. And I wanna keep talking to you about stuff like this because we were talking about like a fun radio show or podcast. And I think lists, man. Like lists, you got nostalgia. You bring in the new school, the old school. Lists, man. I'm telling you, I love them too. We got to come up with a cool name though. Those fuckers. There's some douchebags that have a podcast called Mount Rushmore where they do their Mount Rushmore of everything.
Oh yeah. Those
it's a fucking good name.
Cocksuckers.
They're boring. I listened to like 5 minutes of them. Like maybe it's good, but I couldn't get past 5 minutes because I'm pissed off that they got a better name than we did. Son of a bitch. You guys know where to find Kevin Bozeman. He's gonna be back on Kilgallon's Pub soon. Check out his. You told him about the new podcast you got?
Yeah, Happy Hour with Kevin Bozeman.
All right, you gave him all the info, dude. Thanks so much for being on it. Everyone, thanks for listening. Kev, I'll talk to you soon. Everyone, thanks for listening to Kilgallon's Pub. Cheers.
Jesus.